Is this thing on? Welcome back to Big Mouth and fancy seeing you here in June. A very welcome, my friends, and especially my enemies. Come in, sit down, no touching. I don't do the touching. Welcome back to Big Mouth. If you're feeling charitable, please smash the subscribe button and the like button, and please do follow me on Twitter at Movies TV Mad. Welcome to Wednesday's edition of the dceu Daily. A beautiful morning here in Cyprus, and I welcome you to a country that's dealt with the pandemic in a way that America and the UK should have. But unfortunately, when you've got those type of leaders, all they care about is that and not about that. So today we are talking about three things. Later on, we'll be talking about Robert Pattinson and his claim that he's not doing his gym work and all the toxicity aimed towards that young man. We'll also be talking about a report from the LA Times, I think, saying that the governor of California is looking to lock that down for a further 3 months, which has obviously negative consequences for us movie fans and Hollywood and production companies. But first of all, I want to talk about how men saved Birds of Prey, how Margot Robbie was allowed to form an all-female production company, then needed men to bail her out of an absolute mess. And I want to say, and I've said this before, but then I've gone back and said stuff about her. I do want to apologise to Grace Randolph. She has got me blocked on Twitter. As a DC fan, sometimes we are very defensive. And when someone comes for a movie or an irritation or a comic book, we get defensive and we attack. Grace, sometimes I think you're a bit mischievous and you do disappoint me. I have said some things in the past, and if I thought about it, I wouldn't have said it. Because absolutely, Grace Randolph was right. We are going to play her Birds of Prey spoiler video, right? Where she made some very, very big claims. Now, listen to this. Now, at the time, I was living in denial and I was attacking Grace over this. I apologise, Grace. You were spot on. We are going to listen to this. This is going to be a pretty long video again. So put your belts on and let's go for this.
I think this is a very important question, especially in response to a few of you who feel maybe this story shouldn't be covered. All right, so what are entertainment journalists? Are they extensions of the studio? Are they hardcore fans who simply have access? Are they cinema studies professors? Or, like other journalists, are they the fourth estate? Now, if you're not familiar with that term, it comes from French history, in fact. But basically, today...
So, at the time when I saw this video, I didn't like where this was going. But I want to kind of interrupt there and explain to you what she's talking about. Because she's using some unfamiliar kind of parallels and words. But basically, she's asking, what is a movie journalist? Is it someone that just says nice things, that's getting paid and getting free movie tickets? Is it independent journalists? You know, what do we want these people to be? Do we want them to tell us when these kind of things are going on? Now, if she didn't do this video, if she didn't break this news, and congratulations to her for having the goddamn cast iron balls, yeah, you don't have to be a man to have balls. This woman has got balls of solid rock. That's why I'm taking back a lot of the things I've said about her. I thought about this, and she's not the toxic one. If she didn't come out and tell these truths, Birds of Prey would have been an even worse movie than we've got. Let's let Grace continue.
When it comes to checks and balances, there's obviously the executive, legislative, and judiciary branches, but many feel there's also the press as the fourth group when it comes to checks and balances, whose job it is to act independently. And you see the ramifications when they don't. Now, as you can tell from my coverage, I think entertainment journalists are the fourth estate in Hollywood, where the three main groups are executives, like studio executives, above and below the line talent, the people who are on set making the movies. You know, we often see them as at odds with the studio executives, right? Checks and balances. And then, of course, the audience. But I feel very strongly that the press, once again, is the fourth estate. And today, I'm not just telling you something that happens in Birds of Prey. I have a lot of information, in fact, right now about how several movies end, and I have not shared that because it would just simply be spoiling the movie. But there's a larger, much larger, important conversation at play here. I'm calling attention to a major change in an established character. LGBT representation, which is very important right now, especially in comic book movies, and this is potentially damaging LGBT representation. And then the overall potential lack of dignity in yet another DCEU movie, a franchise that's so vulnerable right now, right on the cusp of having a full comeback. But this sounds like something that threatens to throw them right back to where they were in much darker.
It's an interesting video because the prediction she's making is very true. And it just shows how much power she's got. I've seen creatives say things to her, then the fans say, yeah, go for it, yeah, put Grace in her place. I remember James Wan saying, no, actually, I wasn't putting Grace in her place. I like Grace. This is how intimidated they are by her because they know she knows stuff and they know she will not hold back. That's why I've clashed with Grace, because she won't hold back. But now I get it. Actually, Grace Randolph is actually important. And I regret the day that she blocked me. Yes, I'm holding my hands up. I was wrong, Grace. If you ever see this video, I'm sorry for everything I've said about you, because you are actually on our side. Of course, you want to make money out of your YouTube channel, which you're doing anyway because you're so successful. How many women are successful on YouTube as her? None, right? She has become very, 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 very important because she speaks the truth. And so what she's saying is so bang on, and I didn't realize it because I was doing I'm a fan, I'm going to defend DC, I'm going to defend Margot Robbie and what's going on. I was wrong, Grace was right.
Days. And on top of all that, Birds of Prey, as we all know, doesn't come out until February. So that gives enough time to Warner Brothers, star and producer Margot Robbie, and Ewan McGregor, who plays Black Mask, to at least take another look at their movie, right? To see this reaction now and maybe...
Interesting, because then a few months later she did another video confirming that the stunt coordinator of the John Wick movies was coming to kind of sort the movie out, or to the fight sequences, the stunts, right? Because Kathy Yan effed it up. She didn't do it. She couldn't handle the project she was given. You've got Margot Robbie, who's formed this all-female production company, and the first female she employs just can't handle what she's given. So why was Yan actually employed? We have to ask that question. Was it literally that she just happened to have the right ethnicity and the right gender? Was that it? Think about all the really, really good... If we're going to go down this kind of incorporating all backgrounds and all genders, which is great, by the way, are you telling me there wasn't actually a really, really good Asian female director who could have blew this out the park? The problem is this director wasn't in charge of this film. We must remember this. She was taking notes from Margot Robbie. Her production company, Walter Hamada, gave her the okay to do whatever she wanted because they didn't want to lose her altogether as Harley Quinn. This is something I've discussed so many times.
Be like, maybe it does warrant a second look, right? Are they just in a vacuum? Are they only being told what they want to hear as to how this plays out? Because they really need to take a close look at their movie and ask themselves yet again, how will hardcore DC fans and mainstream moviegoers react to this? Because Warner Brothers has been wrong on this front before multiple times. In fact, again, as I said, it sounds a lot like those...
But you know what's fascinating about this whole situation? They tried to interfere with Man of Steel. Nolan didn't allow them, right? They did interfere with BVS. They put out an inferior theatrical cut. They were forced to allow Zack to release his vision, which was great of BVS. And Suicide Squad, they interfered again, which was the wrong thing to do. And Justice League, they went on another full of interference. That was a clusterfuck, right? But this time, if they did not interfere with this movie, it would have been awful. And they saved this movie, but kept the toxic SJW commentary on it because they had no choice. This was the very core of what Robbie wanted to do and the point she wanted to make. And if they didn't allow her to do that, she would have left and signed up with another company just to get revenge.
Earlier days in the DCEU. Finally, with so many movie news sites these days and let's say Twitter personalities, right, competing to break spoilers, this is going to get out. In fact, that's how this all began yesterday. Now, here's your spoiler warning, last chance to bail out. All right, so yesterday, one of you asked me if I could confirm a report that Black Mask would be a gay character in Birds of Prey who has a flirtation with Victor Zsasz. Now, again, because of the understandable demand for LGBT representation in comic book movies, something...
Do you know what's really funny about this? She's right. This is what was going to happen. But if you remember the movie, it's out on 4K and Blu-ray now and DVD. You can see it. You can see it on Prime Video or any VOD you want. They toned that down. They toned it down, right? Why? I prefer that to the whining for 2 hours about how men take credit for women's work, right, and the other stuff and the constant beating up of men, but only one woman was beat up by Harley Quinn, right? Rather, two gay characters flirting. There's nothing. What's wrong with that? That's representation, right? But they dialed that down, but they doubled down on the rest of it. Well, apart from one thing, which Grace is about to tell us about.
I myself am in favor of. I've been a big proponent of Stucky, although that's now dead. But anyway, I felt this would be obviously very big news. So I asked one of my sources, and my source confirmed it. In fact, they not only confirmed it, but gave me detailed information, revealing that Black Mask being a member of the LGBT community would be a defining part of his character and motivations in the movie. So basically...
But they wasn't, was they, Grace? They wasn't. I'm not saying you and your source are wrong. I'm saying you're right. They did, back in the reshoots, they took this out. They took key components that didn't sit well with people when Grace leaked this stuff. And there's a lot more to come from Grace about this. You remember the video, but we're going back on it to talk about this. This is interesting. This really is. This is the core of what's going on within the culture war in Hollywood right now.
Black Mask would be at times flamboyantly gay in this movie, obsessed with art, is what my source said. And the storyline, or one of the storylines, is that Cassandra Cain eats a diamond to hide it from him. Now, let's just not even talk about right now, and maybe it's not the case, but Cassandra Cain is supposed to be famous for other things, incredible martial arts abilities, not that she ate a bad guy's diamond. But anyway, apparently he's after...
Yeah, I like the actor who plays... Cassandra Cain. I thought she did really well. I thought the character was good, but she's not Cassandra Cain. If you're going to bring Cassandra Cain into a DC movie, make her the wonderful, awesome, kick-ass Cassandra Cain from the comics. You talk about feminism, empowering women. How does that kid empower women? What was the point? Why don't you just create some random kid that Harley finds and saves then? What was the point? You could have actually had Harley and Cassandra Cain together, the real Cassandra Cain, but you didn't do that. Why? Absolute mess.
Her throughout the film to cut it out of her, although there are other ways to get something out of someone's stomach. Anyway, while our heroes or anti-heroes assume he simply wants the diamond or that it has important criminal information hidden inside of it, the reveal is that it's actually pics of his private parts and he doesn't want anyone to see. I had a very hard time believing this was true. Again, it just seemed very disrespectful to the characters and the LGBT community and like the kind of mistakes the DCEU was making before that we all thought they'd moved past. So I turned to a friend of mine, in fact, who I knew had read the script a while back, and which we had a deal, by the way, not to discuss. But with this new, incredible information, I did ask my friend if they could confirm or deny it. And they not only confirmed it, I was shocked when they confirmed it, but they added additional information that Harley Quinn, who narrates the film, often breaking the fourth wall Deadpool style, or like I, Tanya, my friend pointed out. But anyway, it turns out, so what Harley Quinn says, like this is the twist or the dark comedy of it, is that yes, what's inside the diamond was truly of incredible value, but only to Black Mask. But that doesn't make sense, because if you wanted to blackmail Black Mask, obviously would be of value to you as well. I mean, there must be nuances to this that we don't know yet. As also, why would a flamboyantly gay criminal even care if these pictures got out? Unless they're making the joke, and I hope that's not the case, that they're not flattering. I would also, at this moment, like to take the opportunity to point out, to be fair, that my friend did enjoy the script quite a bit. They thought it was a lot of fun. There were apparently positive reactions to the first test screening that we've seen online.
Right, so basically, these are the sausage picks, right, that are placed in this diamond, right? Now, basically, I don't know what they are, if they're his or they're somebody else's, what she's saving when he's feeling in the mood, right? I don't know. So, is this true? Absolutely, this is true. So why wasn't it in the movie? Because she leaked it. It got a negative reaction, as it always was, of course. And why did it get a negative reaction? Because it wasn't about comedy. It was about this female production company led by Margot Robbie actually making the commentary about men sending pictures of their crown jewels, right? Their sausage, right? It's about talking about toxic masculinity who randomly send pictures of their private parts to other women. This is the whole point of this. It's about making commentary. It's about embarrassing men, and they had to take it out. This is what I'm talking about. If she didn't leak this, this would have happened. Good journalism changes things for the better. There's no question about it. Birds of Prey is a solidly entertaining movie, but what ruined it for me was the SJW whining about men and how bad men are and how terrible the Joker is because he's a man, and how Harley Quinn is emancipating herself from a man, right? They set up Harley and the Joker pretty good in Suicide Squad, especially in the extended edition, right? And probably in David's official cut even better. Joker could have been in this movie. This could have been an amazing movie. This could have been Harley and the Joker. No! Margot Robbie wanted to set up an all-female production company and tell us how terrible men are. Thank you. You could have dealt with depression like Todd Phillips' Joker movie did. You could have dealt with child starvation. Women in Africa, what's going on with them being starved to death. There's so much real cruelty around the world towards women that you could have actually done it. But you're not interested in that. You're talking about fake commentary that's not important to wealthy Western women like you, Margot. She exposed you, and you begrudgingly pulled it out the movie. The angry lone nut theory quickly coming in.
And other bloggers who have confirmed my story have said, but it works. However, we've been down this road before, right, with those other DCEU movies. And here, again, is why I think it would be worth Warner Brothers, Margot Robbie, and Ewan McGregor's time to take another look at this to be sure they are striking the right tone and to consider how it might be perceived by larger audiences. Because there are a lot of things that we're going to discuss right now that seem like really big red flags. So first, as one of you actually pointed out, having an underage girl swallow something that has pictures of adult private parts on it seems questionable at best. Next, the LGBT community has been clamoring for representation in the biggest movies being made today. Again, totally understandably, something that I advocate for quite strongly, as you've seen.
But ultimately, the LGBTQ community were barely represented in this movie. The Birds of Prey are not the Birds of Prey we know from the comics. Who are they? They are background characters. They are barely in it. They are extras. They're in it, but they're not represented properly. If this is supposed to be some kind of great representation about a girl gang movie, it simply does not work. And it's not to do with the actors. It's the blocking, it's the writing. It simply doesn't work because they don't understand how to represent women. Because seeing their women, Kathy Yan is a woman, Margot Robbie is a woman, the other actors, the people in this production company are women. If a Hollywood production company full of women doesn't understand their own gender, right, and can't make a film to properly represent these women for their hopes and their fears and their friendships, right, and their reality, what hope is there for anyone? I would challenge this female production company that Robbie put together. I'd say all these toxic males you talk about have represented women in better ways. Not every time. We're not talking about the Bond movies here because I can't make that argument, obviously. But we know there's been better representations from men than there has been mostly from women, right? We know that. What an absolute clusterfuck embarrassment. And it all goes down to Walter Hamada's decision to let her have total creative responsibility because he had no choice. Because we all love Margot as Harley, right? So she took her shot and she failed.
So far, they've been getting nothing but a whole bunch of queer baiting, which I think is, another conversation about, stealing from and taking from groups without giving back to them. I think that's, really one of Hollywood's things they haven't gotten over, unfortunately. So for Birds of Prey, a dark comedy to make its villain not just gay, but flamboyantly gay, right? And not pulling off a grand heist or some sort of master plan, but instead going after his own personal private pictures, right? Pictures of his privates, which he put in a diamond in the first place. The jokes that come out of this, it's similar to the Martha situation, which I would like to say I felt worked, but you can see it obviously did not overall. I mean, I'm not saying that what happens in this Birds of Prey isn't defensible, but I think it's, can be easily attacked. So for instance, someone said, is that where rich people hide their porn in diamonds, right? I mean, also I saw some jokes about maybe he's thinking about Dick Grayson pics. I really do think there's a similarity to the Martha reveal, which obviously they felt was genius when they made the movie.
Now, Grace, the Martha scene was genius. Obviously, it didn't sit very well. People didn't see why this worked because it was deep. It was a deep cut that everybody didn't get. That's why people kind of said, really? They've got the mother who's got the same name? That's so stupid. That's a stupid reason to stop a fight. Literally, it's not because it's a dumb idea. People simply didn't get such a tactical deep cut. And I think that's the problem with the Martha sequence. You can make fun of that. But this is embarrassing. And that's why they took it out, because as soon as Walter Hamada saw the reaction to this is the key moment where Walter Hamada took over this production. And so you've got Kathy Yan when they're marketing this film, yeah, I believe in this, I believe in that, yeah, the commentary we're making about toxic masculinity is great. But in reality, Kathy, you barely had anything to do with this film in the end. You were either Margot Robbie's bitch in the end, or you were Walter Hamada's bitch in the end. This wasn't even your film. This film is actually an embarrassment for you as well, because you weren't allowed to make your movie. Ultimately, the studio had to get in because you were being used in a bad way. But ultimately, Margot Robbie, who's a fellow female, didn't treat you with much respect and creative freedom herself.
It just doesn't sound like great LGBT representation either. And is it done for the right reasons, right? Are they creating a great LGBT character? I mean, again, people who've seen the movie say that he is a great character, but you have to be careful how everyone's going to view it. Again, everyone thought the Martha thing was great. Everybody who saw that movie prior to its release. Or is Black Mask being played for laughs or for shock value or to be that zany movie? Again, Harley Quinn is
No, Black Mask was played to be a toxic male, to be a demonstration of toxic masculinity. Basically, the way he treats that woman who's sitting with her boyfriend, remember? Blatant, trying to say, look at men, this is what they do, this is not what we all do. And it's outrageous, and it's wrong, it's bitter, it's negative, and it's twisted. And you wonder why so many young men are depressed and are slashing their wrists and thinking of suicide. Every time they go on Twitter, every time they watch a film, they are being attacked for being boys. That's it. Being blamed for what their ancestors did thousands of years ago. It's ridiculous. This is what you are doing. You are crazy. You are all crazy. You have taken our films away from us. Nobody's saying don't make women more represented, giving them more lead roles, more director's part, more important roles in production companies. Nobody's saying that. But representation and equality shouldn't mean toxicity, shouldn't mean driving young boys and men to suicide and self-harming because they feel disgusted in themselves. This has to stop now. This was the political mentality and ideology of this film. We see it in Doctor Who and we've seen it in Star Wars. You want equality. This is not equality. This is hatred at the highest level.
Comedic character, so this movie will play this at least partially for laughs. It is going to be done comedically. Furthermore, just as there was similar concern when it was announced that a straight actor would be playing a flamboyantly gay character for laughs in the Jungle Cruise, well, Ewan McGregor is also straight. Now, he has played a gay role before, most prominently in 2009's I Love You, Philip Morris. And of course, straight actors can play gay roles because gay actors can play straight roles, right? But that being said, you can't deny there's something powerful in Ruby Rose playing Batwoman. Plus...
No, Grace, I have to stop you there. We can't agree with everything you see. I have taken a few things back. I have apologised to you. But Ruby Rose, just because she's gay, getting the part is stupid. And we've seen the toxicity aimed at poor Ruby as well. Because I don't know, apparently some people are saying she's not really gay. I don't know the conversations. But members of the LGBTQ community have been attacking Ruby Rose for one reason or the other. Since it hasn't been actually us that have been attacking her on social media, it's actually people from her own community. So that says a lot about that. But if a straight woman played Batwoman, it wouldn't have been an issue. And let's not forget, Batwoman, all the versions of Batwoman haven't always been that she's gay. They decided to go for this, to say, look, aren't we making a powerful statement? You're not making a powerful statement because, first of all, the lady who happens to be gay can't act and you only cast her. She's basically had little roles before because she can't act and she obviously knows the right people, right? Typical Hollywood. We've discussed this here on Big Mouth before. Right, she can't act her way out of a paper bag. She's absolutely terrible. And I'm sure there could have been other gay women who could have done a better job. It's just like talking about Jodie Whittaker and Doctor Who. There were better women to cast in the role.
When you're doing something tricky like this, it's a good idea to have an LGBT person involved in some capacity to make sure it's done right. Ewan McGregor is straight. Margot Robbie is straight. Screenwriter Christina Hodson is straight. No indication on Kathy Yan, which we should be respectful of. It should also be noted the Black Mask isn't the only LGBT character in Birds of Prey. Renee Montoya, played by Rosie Perez, will be in a lesbian relationship just as she is in the comics. She's become an LGBT character, and here she'll be in a relationship with Ali Wong. So Birds of Prey...
What happened to that? What happened to that? I've only seen the film a couple of times. Did I miss that bit? I swear I didn't see that bit. I'm going to go and rewatch it later. We'll confirm it on tomorrow's DCU Daily.
It could be amazing LGBT representation. It could be unfortunate LGBT representation. Maybe it's both, right? But the private parts pictures in the Diamond storyline seems awfully disrespectful, right? To both the LGBT community and DC characters and fans. Like some kind of, kinky Benny Hill or imitation Quentin Tarantino. I've heard Quentin Tarantino's name bandied about before when it comes to this.
Yeah, they tried to talk about this being Quentin Tarantino. They tried. They couldn't lace. Kathy Yan couldn't lace Quentin Tarantino's boot for one lace. It's an absolute joke. This film could have been amazing. Could have made just under $1 billion at the box office. But people are not stupid. Again, with their ideologies, they've lost money. Their business is dying because they are insane. This has to stop. Now, luckily, there was a big fallout with this movie when it was first released. But surprisingly, what stopped the big fallout, obviously, the pundits and the critics said lovely things about the film. In fact, if you believe them, this is the best film that's ever been made. And we all know that's not the case.
Birds of Prey, and of course Margot Robbie is in his new movie, Once Upon a Time in Hollywood. But it's worth noting that he himself is in a lot of trouble right now, with rumors he might even recut his movie before release, because Once Upon a Time in Hollywood came under significant fire at the Cannes Film Festival for how it depicted not only female characters, but Margot Robbie's. And she thought that was a good idea when she was making that movie. So you got to really check these things and ask, make sure you ask around and cover all your bases. Two final points that I want to make. Making pictures of private parts the focal point of a movie will significantly limit its audience. Consider all the kids who like Harley Quinn and comic book movies, right? It will
Actually, this is a great point because people didn't know what was going on. For all we know, this could have been true right up to release, right? So, obviously, even though it's R-rated, as I said with Joker movie, it's obvious that people who shouldn't be going, of a younger age, are going to these movies and not being checked. That's obvious. Cinemas don't really check these things. I've been in lots of cinemas. I've done my investigations and research. Who was going to allow their kids, their teens, to go and see this if a sausage pick was going to be the primal focus of this film? That probably cost at the box office as well. It's insane. Hollywood used to be full of business people who knew how to tell a story, or knew how to bring in people who knew how to tell a story. They don't seem to have the armory or the tools anymore. They've lost the hunger to entertain people.
Also keep the movie from even being released in some countries, or if it is released, heavily edited. It might not be able to be edited down, which was an issue with the first Deadpool, although that movie did very, very well, obviously. But with a $75 million budget, not including advertising, Birds of Prey does need to make some money. A lot of people did take their kids to Deadpool. I heard reports from many.
So, I'm going to do now, which I didn't do at the time, I'm going to like this video. And right here, on today's edition of the DCEU Daily, we are going to go on the comments. YouTube would change where they put their comments, but we're going to do it. Right, add a comment, that's it. Hi, Grace. Right, I'm just going to do this now. So I can't look at the screen at the same time. I'm not that talented. Hi, Grace. I owe you an apology. I was very defensive when you did this video, but you was correct. This industry is nuts. There you go. So that's there. So, but that's not the end of the story, everyone, because we have another video that Grace did, which pretty much puts everything in perspective. So we can carry on with this shit show, right? Not my show, their show. Here's Grace again. Let's like it, because I didn't like it. Here we go with her confirming that Chad, whatever his name is, from John Wick, was taking over some of the reshoots, directing some of the reshoots. This was big news at the time.
Today, it's blown up into a full-blown story that I can do a video on. All right, so anyway, as I said, I heard that Birds of Prey was undergoing massive reshoots, thanks to what I think most of us would agree are reasonable studio concerns. I know some of you want your niche picture, and I understand that. I'm sympathetic to it, but I think at the same time, even though Birds of Prey has a small budget, which is fantastic, it minimizes the risk, you still need these movies to do well. They can't make less money than Ant-Man. DC is a brand that should be on par with Marvel. It's not like some little avant-garde niche franchise for Warner Brothers to fart around with, for lack of a better word. This is a huge IP, which is supposed to have all these, verticals that it spawns, like, merchandise and theme park attractions. It needs to perform as it should. All right, so anyway, some people yesterday tried to write off the reshoots as typical Hollywood tinkering. But today we find out that an entirely new director has been brought onto the project, and it's fabulous news. While tweeting with some of you yesterday, I had said I hoped that this Birds of Prey reshoot situation would be like the one with Rogue One, where Tony Gilroy infamously came in, infamous for Gareth Edwards, but
Basically, that's not what happened, is it? Birds of Prey didn't end up being like Rogue One because Tony Gilroy did a pretty good job in fixing that movie, as we all know now, as a point of history.
Gilroy had to come in and significantly rework the picture. But we are the ones who benefited because what Tony Gilroy came up with was pretty darn freaking cool. I really liked Rogue One, particularly the final act. That was like spectacular stuff. In many ways, I'll just say it. It's my favorite new Disney Star Wars movie, thanks to Tony Gilroy. And sure enough, that seems to be exactly what's happening here with Birds of Prey, as the Hollywood Reporter is reporting that John Wick director Chad Stahelski, who quite frankly should have been directing this or Suicide Squad 2 from the very beginning, as I've been saying since I saw John Wick 2, well, at least he's stepping in to design and co-direct new action scenes for the film. Design the action sequences is very important because his stunt company has already been working on the movie from the get-go. But as anyone knows who's seen John Wick 2, and particularly 3, which is a stunt masterpiece. That's just such an amazing film. Many saying the best argument yet for an Oscar category for stunts. That's how good the movie is. Well, Stahelski has a special set of skills when it comes to dreaming up action sequences, while his company, of course, merely helps execute them for others. Stahelski, in fact, is even known for keeping an ongoing journal of ideas for cool stunt sequences that he can draw from for his movies. And if I were Warner Bros.
Basically, right, I think Chad will ultimately direct the Constantine movie starring Keanu Reeves. This is where I think we're going with this. Lots of noises about Keanu coming back to do a sequel to the original Constantine movie, which will all be slotted in as part of the DCEU, and I think he's bringing Chad with him. That would excite a lot of people. Automatic box office. That would excite me as well. So this is a sorry story of not the DCEU as a whole, as Grace is trying to pinpoint, because Grace is always picking at the DCEU. That's one of the issues I always have with her, but that's her right. We're trying to keep things cool and untoxic on a level. But in terms of what she revealed, my whole point is, if she didn't reveal the sausage pick in the diamond and the child swallowing the diamond, they would have went with it. It would have been an absolute mess. If she didn't leak all that stuff, Chad wouldn't have come in to do the stunt choreography, right? And at least the stunt work was a little bit good. I don't think there's many stunts in this film, even some of the fight sequences. Look, it's amazing the turnaround I've had, because when I first saw this film, right, before it was released, I was defending it. I said, it's a really good, solid film, not the best film ever, but good, and people should leave it alone. That was me being a DC fan, trying to be defensive. And that's why I had to send that message to Grace on that video and say, you know what, you were right, I was wrong, I owe you an apology. But it's just to see the clusterfuck of crap that these people are doing, right? Everybody loses. Everybody loses. The studio loses because they don't make the box office. Harley Quinn could have been DC's and Warner Brothers' Deadpool, as Grace said. Could have been easily. She's there. She's nuts. She's crazy. She's intelligent. This would have been amazing. I read you, an interview with a comic book writer talking about, Booster Gold and Harley Quinn teaming up, right? Imagine that in film. But no, we've got to make commentary about how terrible men are. So I just wanted to demonstrate to you that basically men saved Birds of Prey and the fantabulous emancipation of one Harley Quinn. And they hardly saved it, did they? Let's be honest. But it would have made a lot less, and it would have been a worse movie if men weren't brought in to save this. Now, this is not me making a point that men should make and star in all movies. Of course not. That's ridiculous. My point is that Margot Robbie, right, set up an all-female production company. They messed everything up through her toxicity and her hatred for men, because that's the only way I can think about it. And you know what's strange? You know what's crazy? When I see Margot in interviews and stuff, she looks utterly pleasant. She doesn't look like these crazy feminists. You made a mistake, Margot. You've learned from your mistake. Basically, be the great actress, but you're not a creative, and you're certainly not a production head. You want to credit on a few films, that's fine, but you shouldn't be making big decisions. That's clear now. Right. Let's move on, because we still have other things to talk about here on the DCEU Daily. Exclusive here to me at Big Mouth, of course. The whole show was always my inception, and I think it's great to bring you this stuff and, to just bring you these talking points like we've just done. And so, in an interview, Robert Pattinson has said he can't be asked to do his bodybuilding regime, his gym routine at home while he's in lockdown. So, of course, everyone from the Snyder fandom is jumping on this guy, not literally, but with a lot of toxicity, having a go at him. He even said, guys didn't have these big muscles in the 70s. Why do we need to have them now? I don't think that Batman necessarily has to be ripped, right? I don't particularly think that's important, and I think he makes a good point, but it's not up to him anyway. If this isn't going to be a well-ribbed Batman, there's a reason for it. There's a reason for it because this is a young Batman. He's just started out. He's not there yet. So he doesn't have to have the muscles. And to be honest with you, even though Bale was well-built, he wasn't as well-built as Ben Affleck. Listen, I love Ben Affleck as Batman. I wish Ben Affleck was still Batman. But finding contrived reasons every time, Robert Pattinson breathes to attack him just because we want Ben Affleck back isn't helping anyone. It's toxic. It puts us and our movement in a bad light, and it doesn't help anyone. And you're not getting Batfleck back anyway. So you can keep on kicking and screaming and being as toxic as you want. It's not going to happen. So I say leave poor Robert Pattinson alone. Judge him on his performance and his movie. And that's my opinion. Right, finally today. The LA Times are saying that California, Los Angeles, will be locked down for a further 3 months. Of course, this has negative consequences for Hollywood, production companies, and us. But don't worry, because I think what's going to happen is that Hollywood will start moving productions to other countries. I think it's going to happen. I think they'll have to social distance. I think they'll have to follow rules on planes, but they will be allowed to leave their homes. They will be allowed to shoot in countries like Australia and New Zealand, which is perfect for Hollywood. UK, they can't. They like to film in the UK, of course, but they're not going to be able to do that because in the UK, they're in just a bigger clusterfuck as they are in America because both of their leaders are clowns. Let's look at it that way. And people have suffered and died, and I keep on dying because of them, right? So I think that what's going to happen very quickly, production will resume on everything. I think the Batman may have to go to another country to continue filming. I think other things that are in production will go to other countries until America sorts itself out. But I don't think America are going to sort itself out anytime soon, or the UK. I think even a second peak in those two countries, and I don't think there's going to be a big spike in other countries, right? So that's that. So if you're worried about your films resuming production, I wouldn't worry too much. They will find loopholes and ways to continue making these films. I think they'll start doing this from June onwards. As I say, in the UK, they're allowed to shoot their TV shows and their movies as long as they follow social distancing rules. And so I think that's where we're going with that, and this is what's going to happen. Wow! Did you enjoy today's DCEU Daily? If you did, comment down below. Actually, before I go, nearly forgot something, and I nearly forgot it yesterday because I did an even longer video yesterday. Jay Oliver was explaining to people why he can't talk about Ben Affleck's Batman because he worked on that. He was working on that, basically, the pre-production, and he was saying, basically, I don't want to lose my job. And he was saying people were trying to entice him to tell them because he talks to fans a lot to go on Twitter and talk about it. He goes, look, I don't want to lose my job. And I understand that. This is my opinion, and it's not on Jay at all. My opinion is this, that with these laws and regulations that people can't leak anything, it's ridiculous. We are never going to see the Ben Affleck film. It hasn't been made. There's no kind of movement where we can say, release the Affleck cut, because there isn't one, right? Ben Affleck, we're probably never going to see him as Batman unless he comes back to do some extra scenes for the Snyder Cut. Superman and Batman willing, right? I hope so. So I don't know why they don't just tell us. I don't know why they don't make a special video documentary about Ben's faults. Why can't Ben have a YouTube channel and talk about what he was planning, right? Instead of saying, yeah, no, that film, that movie, and like it's his past tense, which it is. I just think it would be nice for fans to know what went on there and what the actual story and what they were going to do. But of course, they're not going to do that because if we hear about the awesome, epic stuff Ben was doing, then at the end of the day, we'd be angry and we'd take it out on the Batman, as we're seeing a lot of Snyder fans do now. As I said, comment down below, like, share and subscribe. What a mess my videos are. And I'll be back tomorrow with even more DCEU Daily. See you again soon. I had a lot of fun doing this one.